Alright lads, thanks for stopping by for another of my War Thunder vehicle reviews. Whether you're a new subscriber or a long time viewer of this channel, thank you very much for stopping by. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Type-16. This is a battle rating 9.0, rank 7 wheelie boy in the Japanese tech tree. This is quite an older vehicle and has been in the game for quite some time. But with several wheelie boys being added to the game recently, I thought I'd go back to one of the OGs and see how they're doing. To unlock this tank, it's going to cost you 390,000 research points, and then you're going to have to unlock it for the cost of 1,020,000 silver lions. Being a tech tree vehicle, you will then have to put it in your lineup for an eye-watering cost of 290,000 silver lions. And as always with top tier vehicles, I'd highly recommend getting the expert and ace qualifications, costing you 1,020,000 silver lions and 2,100 golden eagles. Moving on to the repair cost, and in realistic battles, it will cost you 4,470 silver lions to fully repair this vehicle. Moving on to the rewards, and in realistic battles and with a premium account, you'll have a 464% RP modifier and a 210% silver line modifier. In terms of customization, there are several camouflages available to purchase for golden eagles, as well as 2 camouflages available on the Gaijin marketplace. In this video we're going to cover the performance, armour and firepower of this tank before finishing with a conclusion. If you do enjoy these sorts of reviews, then please do consider leaving a like and subscribing. Moving on to the engine and mobility, and the Type-16 is powered by an engine producing 570 horsepower. Combined with the vehicle's weight of 26 tons, it gives this tank a power to weight ratio of 21.9 horsepower per ton. This power to weight ratio is actually pretty good for a battle rating 9.0 vehicle, but due to the tank having an 8x8 chassis, it naturally has pretty poor acceleration. As with most wheeled vehicles in War Thunder, the use of wheels sacrifices acceleration for long-term high top speed, and the Type-16 is no different, being able to achieve a top speed of 100 km per hour going forwards and 37 km per hour in reverse. It's noticeable, however, that this tank only has 5 gears. 5 gears to cover 100 km per hour going forwards. This means the tank accelerates pretty slowly, especially at slow speed, and you do feel quite sluggish and heavy. In terms of turning circle, for an 8-wheeled vehicle, it actually isn't too bad. It does turn pretty sharply, but nowhere near as sharp as a tracked vehicle. Wheeled vehicles also suffer in soft terrain, like sand and mud. This means on large rural maps, you may be at a disadvantage compared to tracked vehicles, as they simply have better traction on the muddier, softer ground. This problem is exemplified on snowy maps, where you basically have no traction at all. Overall, the mobility of the Type-16 is pretty good, but not amazing. While its wheeled chassis does allow you to have a very high top speed, especially for battle rating 9.0, but you hardly ever achieve this top speed, due to the rather sluggish acceleration in my opinion. While you can and will achieve this top speed if you have long enough to get up to it, on most battlefield maps, you just don't have the time or the space. You can use this tank speed to get yourself into strong positions at the start of a game, but say after 2 minutes into a battle, your advantage in speed is pretty much negligible. Alright, moving on to the armour and survivability, the Type-16 is a crew of 4 men, with 3 in the turret and 1 in the hull. 3 of the crew members are located in very close proximity in the turret. This means if a round does penetrate into the turret crew compartment, you are likely to receive a one-shot death. This is because most tanks in War Thunder require at least 2 members to still be alive in order to control the vehicle. Like the Israeli Makarov, this tank does have a front-mounted engine, which will give you a little bit of additional protection. However, you should expect your engine to be knocked out frequently, as most incoming rounds will hit your engine, knocking out both your transmission and the engine itself, giving you a very lengthy repair time. But moving on to the arm performance itself, and due to the Type-16 being a light tank, it will be tested against another light tank's gun. In this case, the BMP-2's 30mm autocannon, firing the APDS rounds at a range of 100 meters. Starting as always with the lower frontal plate, and it's actually quite shocking. You have 135mm of protection, but remember, this is only against the low caliber autocannons, not the 105mm guns firing at this battle rating. Moving to the upper frontal plate, and due to the extreme angling of over 81 degrees, you have over 250mm of effective protection. But again, 105mm APF-SDS rounds will cleave right through this. However, if we move up to the turret, you can see the 30mm APDS can go straight through this thing. It is a little bit patchy, but in most places you will be able to have your turret knocked out. And if not the whole turret is knocked out, it will certainly knock out your gun and breech. If we turn the camera to the side of the vehicle, our protection drops down significantly, down to around 43mm of armour. And if we move to the turret, our protection actually drops down again, down to around 34mm and actually lower in some places, especially around the turret bustle at the rear of the turret. Alright, moving on to the weapons and firepower, and the Type-16 is armed with a 105mm JSW cannon. This gun is fully stabilised in both the horizontal and vertical planes, and can hold a maximum of 40 rounds, with a first stage ammunition ready rack of 15 rounds. In terms of the vertical guidance characteristics, it has 15 degrees of elevation, but a rather terrible 6 degrees of gun depression, 4 degrees lower than the NATO standard of -10 degrees. This downside is pretty common on most wheeled vehicles, as their long hulls prevent the gun from depressing. Moving on to the weapon reloading skill under the loader section, and you have a base reload of 8.7 seconds, which drops down to 6.7 seconds with an ace crew. Next we go to the targeting skill under the gunner section, and you have a base turret traverse speed of 21 degrees per second, which rises to 30 degrees per second with an ace crew. This is alright, but I'd like to see it at 40 degrees per second, pretty much the NATO standard. In terms of optics, not only do you have high resolution thermals for both the gunner and commander, but you also have a 2x zoom and an optional 8x zoom, with an incredibly wide field of view. But let's get onto the ammunition itself, the part that makes enemy tanks go boom. Your stock shell is a Type 91. This travels at 1150 meters per second and contains 1.27 kilograms of TNT. This is a high explosive anti-tank fin stabilized shell, which means it has a constant penetration of 400mm at all ranges. The 1.27 kilograms of TNT filler does give it pretty good post penetration damage, making this a pretty solid stock shell. Your second shell is a Type 75. This is the Hesh shell, or high explosive squash head. It contains 3.89 kilograms of TNT, giving it 127mm of penetration at all ranges and all angles. This round has a very low muzzle velocity at 760 meters per second, making it rather hard to aim, and I can't really think of a reason to use this round, especially when you have a great stock heater fest shell. Next up we have the M416, and no, it's not an assault rifle, it's a boring little smoke shell. It travels at a similar muzzle velocity than the Hesh shell at 730 meters per second, and carries an eye-watering 50 grams of TNT, lads. In all seriousness though, it has a smoke screen radius of 20 meters, and it takes 5 seconds to deploy, and it will hold for 25 seconds. Just your average bog standard smoke shell. We also have a selection of APF SDS rounds. First up is the M735. This travels at a muzzle velocity of 1501 meters per second and can penetrate 265mm of armor sloped at 30 degrees at a range of 500 meters, making it pretty good. But the real fun starts when you unlock the next shell, the Type 93. This again travels at the same muzzle velocity of 1501 meters per second, but can penetrate 334mm of armor angled at 30 degrees at a range of 500 meters, an increase of nearly 70mm. Apart from the main cannon, you also have a coaxially mounted rifle caliber machine gun, as well as a pintle mounted 50 caliber machine gun fired by the commander. Overall, the weapons of the Type-16 are very good. Your top tier APF SDS round is essentially a DM33 clone, giving it insane levels of post penetration damage and actual penetration. The reload time of 6.7 seconds is alright, it's pretty much average for this battle rating, and I would like it to be slightly faster, but you can't really complain about that. The thermal optics are superb, and as I said, it's in both the gunner's and the commander's sights, which combined with the decent top speed, makes this tank absolutely superb in simulator battles. Alright boys, before we get into the conclusion itself, let me know down below what you guys think about this vehicle, and what other tank, plane or aircraft you'd like to see reviewed next. But to conclude, the Type-16 is a pretty competent vehicle in the Japanese tech tree, especially at battle rating 9.0, where Japan really has a deficit of competitive vehicles. In fact, the Type-16 is the only 9.0 Japanese tank in the game. While you do have the Type 74F at battle rating 8.7, as well as a regular Type 74, there are no other battle rating 9.0 tanks in the Japanese tech tree, apart from the premium Type 74G. This is an ongoing issue for the Japanese tech tree, as just aren't the vehicles there to populate it. This leaves top tier especially defunct of top tier vehicles. For my battle rating 9.0 lineup, I have the Type 16, the Type 74G Premium, the Type 89, and then a few other select vehicles. But there really isn't much choice, and you kind of have to use those vehicles. Regardless of the lack of the population of the Japanese tech tree, the Type 16 is still an incredibly competent vehicle. Its high performance gun and DM33 clone APF SDS, as well as the incredible thermal optics, and pretty good manoeuvrability does make the Type-16 one of the best wheeled vehicles in the game. While it doesn't have the up and atom acceleration of the Radkampfwagen 90, it by far has the best thermal imaging of any wheeled vehicle in the game. This allows you to play as more of a sneaky sniping tank rather than a traditional light tank. You can use that top speed to get into a good position at the start of the game and then pretty much stay there, only exposing yourself to take a shot and hopefully relocating after every kill. This isn't really an active light tank, where you speed off towards the enemy and get stuck in. The pretty long reload of 6.7 seconds doesn't really allow you to do this, and due to it being such a large vehicle, it isn't really nimble enough either, so try and stay at long range in this tank. But overall, the Type-16 is a very good vehicle, you just have to play it correctly. It does fill quite a bit of a niche. Battle Racing 9.0 is very populated in other nations, but not so much in the Japanese tech tree. Hopefully this can change soon though, as killing premium leopards and seeing them rage in chat is one of my favourite things to do in War Thunder. Thank you very much for watching this video lads, and don't forget to leave a comment down below about which vehicles you'd like to see reviewed next. As always, have a nice day, and thanks again for watching this video.